What's up, y'all? Welcome to Hustle and Harmony with the Cole Sisters. This is a podcast about us learning to find harmony during the hustle of chasing our dreams. I'm Julia.
And I'm Emily.
And we are so excited to bring y'all into the sisterhood. We give each other so much sisterly advice, and I feel like it's half of the things she's told me I wish the whole world could hear because it would help them chase their dreams or get through
right back at you.
Get through the struggles in life. And we have like a little bit of structure to the podcast, but for the most part it's just a FaceTime call between sisters. At the end, we're gonna have a little book club moment, really brief, where we just talk about whatever we're reading right now. And then after that, do a Q&A, because the most important part of this entire podcast is getting to connect with all of y'all. Emily, what are you doing right now in 2024?
Episode 1. This is so crazy. We've been talking about this for so long.
I know, I'm so excited.
Okay, so we should give a little bit of like background on like who we are and where we are for everyone listening to kind of get everyone started and up to speed. So I just finished my 5th year of track and cross country at Duke, which is so crazy.
Go Blue Devils.
It feels like literally yesterday I just got here. And we actually have an older sister too, Kristen, who could potentially be having her baby today.
Our little nephew.
We are going to be aunties, which I'm very excited about. She went to Duke too, and Julia went to Vandy, so they set the bar very high for me. And I'm still trying to process finishing my career here because it literally just happened like a few days ago. And I am just super grateful for all the experiences and people I got to meet, but also really excited for this next chapter. And I think starting this podcast with you is such a perfect like transition because I want to pursue running professionally too. And it's a super like unconventional path, and everyone kind of has very different situations that help them reach success in different ways. And it's just so similar to the music industry, which is so like self-driven, entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And it's been so inspiring to watch you do that and like see how you've just like created your opportunities. And like you have to, like, we are each other's biggest fans, and like I wouldn't have been able to do anything I did like without you. And so like having each other to support each other through like this next decade of our careers, I'm just so excited. And I'm so excited to have this podcast kind of like document our thoughts throughout as well.
Yeah, I definitely think we have a unique set of a unique set of goals and a very bizarre reality, both of us do. And we came from the exact same place, same parents, same home, all of that. And yet our paths have gone such completely different directions. I'm not going to take credit for all of the incredible, wonderful things that you have done. But I will say, I made you get a TikTok. Because I said, you have a 6-pack. Just stand there with your 6-pack and you're going to have 2 million followers. Like, but honestly, everyone follows you because you're so relatable and so, you're hard. The absolute passion and drive that you have to go run 70 miles a week blows everyone's minds, including mine. I wanted us to like kind of just dive into like the stuff that's changing in our careers right now, because that's what you and I have had so many conversations about, and that's what's so hard. You know, there's obviously all the glamorous stuff that we post on our Instagram. We take the trips. We have the fun brands that we work with. There's sunny days in the cities that we travel to. But nobody knows about all of the tears we shed on the phone together, all of the things that go wrong, like so much of the time. And I think with where you are right now, graduating from school and trying to figure out who you're going to be, what you're going to do, where you're going to live, it can be two things. It can be scary, and it can at the same time just be so liberating because you can do anything. And I'm in a similar place, you know. I never talk about this stuff online, but being in the music industry, there's so many different ways to go about it. Neither one of us have careers like investment banking or being an attorney or a doctor, where it's like you get your undergraduate degree, you get your graduate degree, you do your fellowship, you get your, do your internship, you get your job, you climb the ranks. There's no step 1, step 2 for us. It's like you throw stuff at the wall and you kind of see what sticks. You have to figure out what things make you happy and what things drive you crazy, because our jobs don't turn off. They're 24/7. For me right now, the pivotal point in my career is trying to decide if I'm going to like if I can really handle doing this full-time touring that, you and I have talked so much about. I am kind of terrified to be spending literally every single day in a new city. And obviously it's taxing on your sleep and on your body with the travel. But I also, how close I am with you, the family, my friends, like it's going to be really hard for me to be away from everybody that I'm
You're
close to.
You're a family girl. You're a family
it's like
girl through and through.
I'm going to have some tears shed. I already know it. But
Hold on. Can I just hype you up for a second? Because this girl so first of all, you just fully committed to this. Like, this is your first full headlining tour, right?
Yeah.
And, like, it's, like, how long has it been announced? A couple of weeks?
I think so, yeah.
And she has done so much already, like, so much work, like, promoting it, and like the socials you've created have been so freaking good. Like every time I see one of your little reels or Instagrams right now, I'm like, okay, sis, go off. And it's like, I just know like you are working so hard to like give this next phase of like really committing to touring, like giving it all of your energy to like have it be as successful as it can be. And it's just so impressive because like I am so excited for you to get to experience it. And like I know it's scary, but you're doing all of the work on the front end for it to be super fun and fruitful. And like this is the hard part where you're having to do all that work, but you're going to be so grateful for it. And just imagine like how fun it's going to be like actually going to these cities and like meeting these people in person.
Oh, I know. And this is also why I keep you around, because I need you on my shoulder being like, you're going to have fun, because I always do. Once I'm on the road, once I'm in, the meet and greet lines afterwards, and I'm hugging people who are crying because this song, helped them through their breakup, or they lost a loved one and this used to be the song they sang together, or whatever the situation is, I'm always grateful to be there. But I am also, I'm scared of, what if nobody shows up? What if there aren't any tickets sold? I've spent the last few years, really since COVID, I've just been doing, streaming and online stuff. And this is the proof. It's like, are people going to show up? And you know what? If it's only 10 people who show up to a show, I'm going to give those 10 people the best show that I possibly can. But I want them to have a good time. So I'm worried in my head, like, what if they're sad there's only 10 people there and they wanted there to be a big group of people to dance with? So that's like the spiral that I keep going down.
The spirals that exist in literally every career path that exists.
Yeah.
I can relate to that on so many levels with running. But like even like specifically with your touring, like you've also told me too about how like you have to, like, I obviously have like no background in the music industry, so I learn everything about it like from you and through you, and it's so cool to like see the behind the scenes of it, because it's so much more difficult than like people realize, and there's so many more layers to it. Like you are basically like 10 different roles. Like you do so many different things and you carry so much, and it's like it's so much stress, but you like carry it so well and like handle it so gracefully. Anyways, you were telling me about how like the cool thing about touring though is like the benefit of going to cities and then returning to them and like building up crowds, and how like this first phase can be scary, but you kind of have to like push through this first phase and then it can like really build up too. But this is the scary part. This is like the no one wants to like get started at the beginning.
It's jumping off the cliff.
Yeah, literally. We are both jumping off the cliff right now.
Will the parachute open? Maybe not, but I'm jumping anyway. And
but we're jumping together. So we're jumping whatever together. Happens, we'll be together.
And by the way, everyone, I'm like forcing Emily to come to at least half of this tour with me. Like as soon as she's done with, I guess, what do you have to do? A couple more things. You have a few more meetings in town and then you're free.
Yeah. I have like, so my foot has been like injured basically this whole season, which is kind of tough trying to do the steeplechase.
By the way, she still ran like 70 miles a week on an injured foot, which is crazy.
Not really. I ran like 20 to 30, and
That's
I did a lot
still
of
insane.
biking.
Like, for you, you're like, it's only 30 miles. Like, that's more than I drove this week.
Well, thank you. But yeah, it was definitely brutal. Like having to like push through that, and then like the week before ACCs, I didn't run at all. Like I was on the bike the whole week because I could like barely walk from the pain, and then the weekend before ACCs, I got a steroid shot in my foot to kind of help with it. So just like dealing with a lot of demons and like battling that. And I think running is also just it's a super exposing sport and a super judgmental sport because it's so easy to just numerically compare people.
Right.
And like for people to judge you. And I mean, honestly, mainly for you to like judge yourself, like to associate yourself with a number. And
it's also crazy because every week is a completely different race, and you could run something like so different one week to the next that you just you never know like what is going to happen, and it's like drastically different week to week.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And also just like because I did cross country and track, like a lot of people don't realize, first of all, cross country and track are completely different sports.
Yeah.
And people always ask like, do track athletes do cross country? And it's more the other way around. Like every cross country athlete also does track because they have distance events in track. But our sprinters would actually like probably rather die than run cross country. They watch us run like 1 mile and they're like, oh my God, I don't know how you do that.
Well, you technically are a tri-sport athlete because indoor is another third sport. So how does that work? Like I remember, do you get, on your like Letterman jacket, is that 3 different sport patches, if you will, or do they not do it like that?
So like, yes, it's definitely officially 3 different sports. We don't have like patches for our jacket. Like everyone just gets a varsity letter and it's just like a black jacket with a white D and you don't really put anything on it.
Okay.
But in high school, like we definitely did that with like different sports. But like here, it's just, I think the mental exhaustion too of having to like literally race like almost every other weekend, basically year round. And then like the past couple of years, like going to USA's, like my track season going like 2 more months into the summer. Like this is basically going to be the first summer I've had in like 3 years. So I'm excited. I don't know. I'm just like, I think that is something that has obviously taken a lot of energy to have to like do that every single other weekend. And, especially on weeks when you don't feel ready to race and like you got to do it anyways. And I think that that's also something that we talk about all the time is like, me having to go race, like if I don't feel fully prepared, like you having to go on the stage if you don't feel, oh my gosh.
Tell them. I know exactly what you're thinking of. Tell them.
So, Julia actually has sung at Duke before. She's a baller, and she actually got into singing by doing national anthems, which is why it's super cool that she does a lot of women's empowerment and like connecting music to the sports industry too, and empowering like young women in sports. That's something that like we are both super passionate about and excited.
Oh, we're gonna do an entire episode on that. Don't worry.
just you wait.
Yeah.
But what was the like day called? Because it was a women in sports like event that you were singing for, right? I think it was National Girls Women in Sports Day.
Yeah.
And you sang the anthem for the Duke women's basketball game.
In Cameron Indoor.
And you could have become famous for something else. But little did people in the audience know, Julia was actually down horrendous that day.
It was the most miserable I've probably ever been in my life. Emily and I went with some of her teammates to a sushi restaurant the night before. R.I.P. I had food poisoning and I started just absolutely losing it the entire night, all morning. I mean, I hadn't consumed any food since whenever we had sushi, 8 p.m. the day before, and I couldn't even drink water. Like, it was, the worst, like, food poisoning, stomach bug, whatever it was you can possibly imagine. And I'm like, if I go down as the girl who pukes in the middle of the national anthem on Cameron Indoor, this is on, the game's like on national television. Like, I have no idea what is going to happen in this situation. And this is where my, my sports background kicks in. And I'm like, show
Game
must
time,
go
baby.
on, game time, like don't even think about it. I went into autopilot and I sang the national anthem, and then as soon as I walked off the court, I was just like, oh, sick again, you know. But that
It was
just,
so impressive.
it was
I literally
terrifying.
was like, she could barely stand. Like, you couldn't like exist and like have conversations. And then they're like, it's time to go on, and you were just like, boop, doop, 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 walked out with your microphone, and I was sitting in the crowd, terrified. I was like, oh my god, I'm literally like praying, like, God, please, like, let Julia get through this anthem. And then you came off and you like went straight to the bathroom. I was like, are you okay? Like,
You're
she
like,
did
I
it.
don't want to be the cute girl sister.
Oh my god. So yeah, all of this to say, we have a very like demanding, exposing careers, and so it's very nice to have each other to like support each other through that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just like don't get it.
Do not get it at all, or have any sympathy, because people think a lot of the times like, oh, you're living your dream, you're doing whatever you want,
Yeah.
like all that. And obviously there are elements that are true about that. Like, I'm so grateful for my career, and I know you are too, to be
Yeah.
able to do what we do, and especially with the social media sides of what we both do. You know, there's a whole music industry world that does things a different way than me, and you know that there's an entire track and field world that do things a very different way than you. But you and I have used social media to, you know, help us build our careers in insane ways. And people don't understand that that is a full-time job. Like, we're doing music and track on the side too.
Yeah.
But what we have to do for our like
Yeah.
social media, it's like other companies do this full time, you know. This is what they do.
It's been crazy to like, because for those who don't know, NIL stands for name, image, and likeness, and like the NCAA during my college career changed the rules on name, image, and likeness to where athletes could profit off of their name, image, and likeness. So when people say the NIL laws changed, that's what happened, which actually is a whole nother thing, because they just made another law where
it's
colleges can directly pay their athletes. In fact, I need to get solid on this, but I think they have to. Like, I don't think it's a scholarship anymore. I think they just pay the athlete, and then the athlete has the money and can pay for their tuition if they want. But like, I think that means that they would get taxed on it. And also, like, the obviously,
But if they
it's, like,
want like an academic scholarship also, they could use scholarship for that and then just get paid.
Yeah. But they're employees of the university now. So it's a whole
wow.
different situation. And like, obviously, like, it's going to be super different for different sports, like basketball and football getting like a ton of money. And then like, I don't know what's going to happen to track and field. Like, I don't know if track and field is like going to be able to continue on, like, because
wow,
it's not making like that nearly as much money as them also. But then you need funds to like be able to keep the programs going. Like, it's pretty scary the way everything is changing so much with the NCAA. And I mean,
I never even thought about that. That's terrifying. I also saw they just passed some law that they're gonna have to back pay like some billions of dollars to pass
I think
NCAA
I said that.
athletes.
Yeah, I
They
think I said
should
that.
though. They absolutely should. You know,
It's
like
reparations.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's a wild west out there for your career and for the music industry, with all these labels that are just signing artists that have already built their entire following. Like, I have almost 300 million streams independently, and these labels
So
still want
crazy.
to, but they still want to sign you and own all of everything. And I'm like, this doesn't make
Right.
sense anymore. It used to make sense when we couldn't reach
Right.
people through social media, but now, like, there are so many things changing, and a lot of it's because of socials.
So I would love if you could kind of like explain the difference between like being an independent and a signed artist, and like what that journey has been like for you, and like why you've chosen to like continue to be independent. Because it's been like, I know that's been something that's been on your mind for a while, and it's like been really cool to see you do so much independently. And I don't think that people realize how hard that is and how impressive it is, like what you've built literally on your own.
That is such a huge question. Where
do you begin?
Yeah, the basics of the difference between a signed artist and an independent artist. A signed artist, it means that, like, I'm signed to a bunch of different companies, but when people are saying that specifically, they probably mean record label. Mm-hmm. And record labels are basically banks, and they pay for everything, but in return, they own everything. And you have pretty much no authority to make any decisions. So a record label might give you an advance of, anywhere between $100,000 to $2 million based on what the hype is around you, what the other labels are bidding, like if there's some competition in the marketplace for you. But that advance is all recoupable. So you're essentially just paying yourself out of the money that your future music makes. And you don't see a penny until every single bit of that is recouped. And on top of that, they get to keep spending money however they feel correct for your career. And that just adds on to your balance. So if they spend $10,000 on a music video, it adds to what you need to recoup. If they spend $50,000 on your record, that adds to what you need to recoup.
And you have no like partaking in the decision making of what they're spending on?
Everything's based on your contract. So now there are a lot more negotiations going down before a contract is signed. That's like, any amount spent over $5,000 you need signed off by our team or something like that, because they've had such crazy things added to the bill, and then you just look back at what you had to recoup later, and it's like a $10,000 dinner with radio reps, where they bought the nicest bottles of wine and everyone ordered filet mignon. And it's little things like that, or flights for everyone to come to your show because you were opening for Luke Bryan, but you paid for 8 more flights than you needed to, or whatever it is. And they added on because it's them supporting you, or they had to do the radio, I guess, mingling in the area while you were there. They'll find a reason to justify anything. And anyway, that's the longest way of explaining kind of the most negative side of a record label. But there is also a positive side. They are the gatekeepers. They have a total monopoly over terrestrial radio, which is not Sirius XM, not streaming like Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon, but like actual radio, 106.7 FM, that type of station. In the country music genre specifically, and most other genres, you are not going to touch a terrestrial radio station without signing to one of these labels, because they bargain with all of their artists. So like they might give you they'll give the radio station a free concert from their biggest artist, but the radio station has to agree to spin their new baby artist song 200 times or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's like, there are the pros. You're not going to get a number one on radio ever without a record label. You'll also never be on the Grammy Awards, never be on the ACM Awards, never be on the CMA Awards. I don't think I've ever seen an independent artist on the CMT Awards either. That one's fan voted. That's kind of what I was going to
ask.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's what I was going to ask, because like, I know like myself, like I literally never listen to the radio. Like I only listen to Spotify, and I know you use Apple Music.
No, I use Spotify.
Or you use
I mean, I use them all.
She uses them all.
Apple, Amazon, Pandora, Sirius XM.
She really does use them all. We love you. Mwah.
Also, YouTube Music. Also, Google Play. Also.
That's amazing. Yeah. So for like radio specifically, like that, why does radio have such a grip over these awards still?
It's not that radio has a grip. It's that the labels do. And the labels know. So almost every single one of those shows that I named is not voted on by fans. It's voted on by the industry. So you have to be a member of CMA to vote on the CMA Awards. You can only get a membership to CMA if you work for a label, an agency, you're an artist, you're a songwriter or a publisher. Like you have to work in the industry, and you have to have 2 other industry veterans kind of sign off approving you, and then your application gets reviewed. So it's industry voting on industry awards, and they want to keep it in-house because they want to keep the system going.
Wow.
It's very smart.
Yeah.
And they do, it's why oftentimes you see an artist win an award that maybe isn't the most popular, because somehow the industry has decided like they really deserved it. Or we've seen them grind here for 10 years. And
gotcha.
Like, I think for me, my favorite example of that is Chris Stapleton. He had been in Nashville for so long and already had written hits. But when he got to go do that performance with Justin Timberlake, it changed his whole life, you know, that one performance on the CMA Awards.
Wait, I'm not familiar with this.
Oh my gosh, you have to go watch it.
Okay.
It's like, so I was actually there during sound check for this award show. And I remember sitting in the stadium and just being like, oh my gosh, do y'all see what's happening right now? This is the most incredible performance I've ever heard in my life. And then sure enough, like 4 hours later, Chris Stapleton and Justin Timberlake broke the internet. Like, it was Tennessee Whiskey, the first time he ever sang Tennessee Whiskey. And
wait, I have to go watch this.
it's unbelievable. I was shook, like goosebumps. I mean, so good. But I think the industry, it's good and it's bad. The industry had seen everything he had done and all the hard work. And I don't know how the decision went down in the background. It's all political. But somehow, some way, people decided, like, he really deserves a shot. And he got to perform on the CMA Awards, even though he didn't have anything at radio as an artist.
Wow.
He didn't have, you know, like,
was he signed?
He had to have been. I mean, I don't know which label
That's
it was.
what I was
but
assuming, but yeah.
yeah, so yes, but I don't remember which label it was. I can probably find out. But it was still just so cool because, you know, there's 52 weeks in a year. There were 52 artists, unless someone had a multi-week number one, but basically 52 number ones, 52 artists who could have been taking that slot on the awards that night. But the industry was like, he deserves it. He's so good. He's been here for so long. Wow. So sometimes it's
look
good.
at him now.
Yeah, sometimes it's good for it to not all be fan voted, but at the same time, it's pretty crazy when you see an artist like my friend Alexandra Kay, for example. You know, she has so many millions of followers. Like, I've been on tour with her. Like, her crowds are huge. They're screaming everywhere into every song, and she's not up for, you know, the ACM New Female Artist of the Year because she hasn't signed, and the ACM New Female Artist of the Year can't touch her socials numbers except for maybe one of them. And I love all of them. Like, they're mostly my friends, but I say this humbly from my numbers too. Like, none of us are competing with that type of fan interaction.
It's been really cool to get to, like, follow her after, like, y'all toured together and just, like, getting to see, like, how she interacts with her fans, how she shares on her socials. She's so amazing, and it's been so cool to see how she's, like, shared her story and, like, used, like, her pain and her journey to, like, connect with her audience and just be so raw and real.
And she's a great example too of how things are changing because people care about how real your fan connection is, and that's why, you know, I think I've introduced you to Jelly Roll, right?
Yeah.
He is so down to earth, so amazing. He built it the same way from the ground up. Obviously, he started doing rap first and then went to country, but, like, he is taking Alexandra out on tour. She doesn't have a record deal. She doesn't have a radio single. She very well could, you know, do that shortly because she's just blowing all of these numbers out of the water.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where Jelly Roll didn't care. He said, I want her on the road because her fans love her. I love her music. She works hard. Let's go, girl. Like, how cool is that? That would have never happened, like, 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's really cool, like, the community that, like, all of y'all have in Nashville, too. Yeah. And actually, that's really, like, a cool thing for, like, us to, like relate between our industries, too. I run a race called the 3,000 meter steeplechase. And a lot of people don't know what that is, but I think, you know, I'm obviously biased, but I think it's, like, one of the coolest, most fun races to watch. And I just absolutely love being a part of it.
Explain to them what it is.
Yeah, so it's a 3,000 meter race. It's just under 2 miles. And there are 35 barriers. So there are 7 hurdles-ish per lap. And I say barrier because this is not a hurdle.
No.
This is a cement, like, I don't know, 6-inch by 6-inch, like, metal bar. And,
if you run into it, your shin
going
is split
down. Yeah.
in half.
And then, like, one of the barriers on the track has, I'm going to get these distances wrong, but it's like a 7-foot water pit afterwards. And at the deepest point, it's deepest closest to the hurdle. So most runners run up to the barrier, jump on it, push off. And the further you push off, it's like the pit itself, the bottom of it is a slant. So the further you push off, it's like you get to the shallow end, you don't really touch the water, and you keep running. But a lot of people will like, if you accidentally hit it and face plant, you're like in the deep end.
You're swimming.
You are swimming. And
Yes.
don't worry, I've had my fair share of swimming and face planting.
I'm just gonna like excerpt real quick. My favorite faceplant swimming moment from Emily during Steeplechase is actually, this is at one of your high school track meets, and for like a year I had this as the background on my phone, was her just like face planting in the water, splashing everywhere. But the only reason why I felt okay hazing her with this photo was because she got up and won the race. Like, she got up and beat every single girl who who did not face plant at all, with sopping wet clothes, sopping wet shoes. You lapped somebody. I was literally like, she's a savage.
Not remember that.
No, how do you not remember that? It was like
I remember lapping someone.
That was the most epic, like, moment I'd ever seen in my life, and I think that was funny because it was like, she's serious about this.
It was funny because it was also not even just like one picture, it was like a compilation of like the stages of me like hitting the barrier, halfway falling, face planting, and then I was like completely submerged, my head is like coming out of the water. And this girl literally had it as her lock screen on her phone for like a full year. She'd open her phone and people would be like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, here we go.
Whatever, you loved it because I ended every story with, but she got up and won the race, which is crazy.
You did. You're my biggest hype woman.
Yeah. And I got to simultaneously watch you faceplant on this like series of photos. It was a win-win for us both here.
So all this to say, I know I've had a million different stories here, but the running community is super close. But the steeplechase community is actually like really tight too. And that's been something that's really cool, has been really cool for me to see and be a part of and get to meet these girls, because I think the similarity between the music industry and the running world is everyone realizes, first of all, your success doesn't take away from my success.
Correct.
Like, we can all be successful and inspire each other and lift each other up. Yeah. So that's an amazing like point for everyone that has like to like realize and like understand, like everyone gets better if you support each other and are like loving rather than trying to like take each other down. And then the other piece of it is like what we do is really freaking hard.
So hard.
No one else gets it except the other people that are living in it with you. Mm-hmm. And so what's cool about our communities is these like people are like, dang, she also does this really hard stuff every single day like we do. And like, we both work so hard every day not knowing that anything's going to come to fruition. Like nothing is guaranteed. And that's a super scary thing. And like a lot of people, like I'm sure you are too, like very well aware that we're super blessed to even be able to like pursue our dreams and like put ourselves in this position. And that's something that I think about a lot is like, because I have this opportunity, like I owe it to myself to just like see what I can do. And also like there are so many people who like wish that they like had this opportunity to pursue their dreams. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the perfect path set up right now. Like I didn't have the most amazing breakout fifth year season just
shout out though what Emily just said, like you can do it. If you're out there thinking you can't do it, whatever that thing is that you're scared to just launch, like we're both jumping off the cliff, jump with us. Like start your clothing company, go open your taco shop, whatever it is. Like you can do it.
But that's kind of like the point of like this podcast too, is like I don't know that we would feel as comfortable continuing to chase our dreams without each other. And so like literally anyone listening,
we're both crazy.
We're both crazy. And also like if you're listening and you don't feel like you have that support, like we will be your support. Like join the fam, join the Cole team, and like jump off the cliff with us, because like it's so scary, but it's so liberating. And when you do that and you get into your community of other people that are doing the same thing, it is a bond like literally no other. And like it's just so cool to get to meet those people and have that camaraderie. And like you gotta find good people, like people that really are like truly love you no matter what your success is and like are there to support you. And once you do that,
we will haze you like a sister, and we will support you like a sister. Like no one else can haze you. Only like this is a community right here. This is a sisterhood. Like we're here for you.
But like once you get in a community like that, like you'll be able to reach success like no other. But you have to like put yourself in that position first.
And not be afraid to fail. And I think that is one of the craziest things that you and I are even having to convince ourselves to do right now. Like, as I said earlier, I'm very scared of what the outcome of doing this first headlining tour is going to be. And I don't feel comfortable saying that anywhere else but when I'm talking to you. And I know this is a public podcast now, but it doesn't feel like it. You know, I feel like I'm just
feels
here.
Feels like we're on FaceTime.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm just here telling you how much I'm gonna need your support and your help, and I hope I can be the same thing for you, because I know how many conversations we've had about you switching out of the structure of a school sport and having to now do everything independently. Like, you're essentially leaving a label to become an independent artist. Like, that's like the equivalent of what you're doing right now. Like, you have to do your own uniform now. You have to book your own meets. You have to find your own coach, find your own trainer, find your own nutritionalist. Like, if something happens with your ankle, like, you've got to set up the doctor's appointment to, like, there's no longer the infrastructure of Duke University doing that for you. And I think you can do it. I know you can do it, but it's also the same thing that I'm having to tell myself. Like, I know I can do it. I know I can do this tour, go out on the road, have the logistics of everything done, the hotels, the commute between places, figuring out VIP, figuring out merch, like the 2 million things that are on the plate that you have to do for every single night of shows. But
it's actually insane.
But we both are trying to figure out how to stay happy while we do all of this. And that is the craziest, most difficult part of it. Because there's obviously the fun elements of it. You love running. You've told me before, this is one of my favorite things that you ever said to me, and I want you to like expand on it. But you told me that there were some runners who you admire, deeply admire, other steeplechase runners, and you had watched a series of 3 of them, I think, each go through a really terrible misfortune right before, I don't know if it was the Olympics or USA's or something really important. And you said, what I've learned from just watching the reality of this job and this career of my biggest idols is that you have to love the lifestyle, you have to love the journey, because you cannot be in it just for the success, or you're setting yourself up for misery. So make sure you love the lifestyle of it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to like figure out how to do this tour in a way that I can still love the lifestyle of it. And maybe that's, I stop in and see my parents every quarter or something, just so I can make sure I still have that family element. You coming out on the road is going to make all of the world of difference, because that's like, I just want my people with me. That's the only thing I'm worried about. It's just being away from everyone that I care about. But we're going to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, that quote it's honestly something I think about a lot. And like, it's something that I'm grateful I didn't have to really like convince myself. Like, I fell in love with running the summer before my senior year. Like, I had a very unconventional path to running in college. Like, I didn't think I was going to be a college athlete at all. I wasn't even close. I did volleyball and basketball up until like my senior year, like alongside of running, but I only did running to like stay in shape for those. And I actually ended up quitting volleyball and basketball before that senior year so I could focus on running. I literally just wanted to break 5 in the mile. That was the only reason. I was like, I did my like regionals meet my junior year, and I was like, my PR was 5:11, and my Coach McGuire, first of all, shout out Coach McGuire. He's literally the only reason I'm here, and I just love him so much.
He is the best.
He's such a goat. And I like attribute like everything to him for like believing in me running wise. So the story is, we go into this regionals meet, and he like, based on my training or whatever, he thinks I can like break 5. And so I'm like on pace to break 5 through like 3 laps. And then I just absolutely blow up. Like, I mean, the last lap, I ran so slow that like my final time ended up being like a 5:17.
Oh my
so
gosh.
it was like negative.
She's crawling across the finish line.
I was lactic. But anyways, I finished that race, and I was like, no, like, I have to break 5 now. Like, I have to break 5 next year. And that's what motivated me all through that summer. And it was the first time I'd ever run year round and not had my other sports. Mm-hmm. And I felt so good running, but like more so, I felt so good like in life. Like, I felt more self-confident. I was just like feeling healthier and happier and more energized because I was eating right and not like drained doing a million different things at once. And so I really fell in love with the lifestyle that summer. And then, ended up getting to run in college and everything. But yeah, so that quote was just kind of inspired by me seeing different professional female athletes sharing about their journeys on social media. And I think that's something that's super cool that has completely changed, obviously, both of our industries, social media in general, but running in particular and sports, is that these athletes are able to now share their voices and their like authentic experiences behind their careers. And running is a hard sport. Sometimes you can train for years.
Your sport is every other sport's punishment.
Literally. And sometimes like you can train for years, and then on the day that you're supposed to have the race, like it just doesn't come together, or something happens, you get tripped. Like there are just so many little things that have to go perfectly for you to have a great day, that you can't have your self-worth attached into the like material outcomes and the results and like how other people are perceiving your performances. Yeah. You have to really truly enjoy the lifestyle in the process, and that will help you not only be able to like probably have great days on those important days because you're not as stressed out about it, right, but also to be able to enjoy your lifestyle more and not just feel like you're finishing and being like, wow, I was just so stressed that entire time feeling all this pressure, rather than enjoying the day-to-day of the journey. So I'm really grateful for the vulnerability of a lot of female runners before me and sharing their journeys with that, and female athletes in general too. I know it's across all sports, and being able to realize the importance of that earlier on in my career. Okay, so we've talked about a million things, and we could literally talk for 2 more hours easily. I'm already excited for episode 2. But we do have some structure to our podcast episodes, which is that we're going to end every single one with 2 things. First, talking about what we're reading right now, because that's a big goal of both of ours during this next phase, to find more balance and peace and harmony in the chaos.
A sister book club, if you will.
Exactly. And then also doing a Q&A section, so y'all will have the opportunity to ask us anything you'd like us to chat about, and I'm honestly really excited about that part too, because it's kind of making it a little more conversational and getting to have y'all be a part of the podcast. So we'll probably post a clip on our socials where you can put your questions in the comments, and we'll reply to them there, and we will be linking our socials in the description below.
So this book club that we want to do together, it is a no pressure, like I just want to know that you're reading and that I'm reading. This is just for us to have a little bit of like motivation to continue doing. One of the things we both decided was how we're keeping the harmony during our hustle is making time to read. And it took me a while to kind of get back to books after I was just hustling this grind of always doing music, always doing my socials, always working, and forgetting that there is so much you can learn from digesting someone else's art, and so much you can get motivated by it, and it really can help you take a break from the stress of what's happening in your own world. And I try to go back and forth between a book that's something strictly for fun, fiction, just a storyline that I can lose myself in, and then a book that is something motivational or something that gives me a little more direction, maybe it's helping me through something tough that I'm experiencing in my life. And I just thought, you have been reading a lot of different books that you've always suggested to me when I'm going through something. You're like, okay, this is the book you need to read because it made me think this during this and saved me from whatever. Yeah. So I think what's cool for the book club, if you're cool with this, if it doesn't matter how much you got through in that week, if you read 3 books in 1 week, you can talk about it. But if you read 1 page in that week, then just be like, that's what happened in your book club this week. Yeah. Like this week, I carried this book around in a bag 8 days in a row and did not find 3 minutes to open it, And
that's so real.
I just know that you and I are going to have weeks like that too. So this book club is a very a real one. We're doing our absolute best, but we know that it's important to both of us. So I'm excited that we're doing it together.
Julia, do you want to get us started with what you're reading right now?
I do. I just finished a book. Hold on. Let me just grab it.
All right, I'm excited. Julia has actually been reading so much lately, and she has been inspiring me and actually giving me books. I currently have a book that she just gave me. I'll get into that later, but I'm very excited to see what she says right now.
Okay, it was worth me grabbing it because there's actually such a cool story behind this. So this is called Unveiling Alice, and it's by Mary Crocker. And I actually was on stage at a show, and this book was brought up to me on stage. And
when? Where?
This was at the Listening Room, and this was, I don't know, a month or two ago. And Mary came up to me, and she was like, I've seen you be super vulnerable and owning your story about your called off engagement and this crazy breakup that you've been going through. I've gone through something similar, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I also owned my story and wrote about it. And I just got back from Italy, and I read this entire book on my flight back. And
oh my gosh.
I mean, I cried so many times, and it's like, I think what's so cool about this book was it not only helped me realize that it's okay for everything to not be perfect, and you can be open about your story, and there's still a way to do it gracefully versus a way to do it, in a tacky way that doesn't have class, and it's written in such a classy way. But there's so many different pieces of it that I think everyone can relate to who's ever gone through obviously a breakup, but really anything kind of embarrassing in your life that is such a main part of what you're thinking about and experiencing, but you don't really know how to talk about it. Yeah. So I feel like you should read this one too. And
I'm really excited
whoever else
to read
wants
it.
to also. Yes, I'm excited because I have a personalized note in here from her, and it's so sweet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's to Julia, who inspires me to own my story every single day. Thank you for the beautiful music that brings life to our stories and emotions. I hope you enjoy the story of Alice healing from her heartbreak. Mary.
Oh my god.
And that's so sweet. So this is my book for the week. I promise every book club is not going to have a story like this, but it was just crazy, right?
That is so beautiful.
It's so
and also
beautiful.
I'm really excited to read it.
Yeah. One thing also about this book, there was a line in it that I found that really spoke to me with this called off engagement that I just went through, and then obviously this album of music that I'm releasing that's very autobiographical. This line, it says, Alice, stop. Is this a ploy to seek revenge? You should really reconsider before taking a story like this public. You know what people might say or do to David. People would probably think poorly of ... And it's every single song I'm putting out, that's what I'm up against. It's this is my truth too, but I'm not allowed to talk about it because I need to protect someone else who, did nothing in their life to protect me at all and treated me terribly. But at the same time, I think about this with every lyric I write, and there are things I take out because I don't want people to know, certain things about what happened or him or whatever the situation might be. And it was beautiful to see in this book, you're allowed to talk about your own experiences, and you don't have to constantly be protecting every other person. If you're telling the truth, that's one thing, You'll never see me making something up about it. But it's just this book really helped me kind of deal with some of the song lyrics that I have out. You know Your Boy. That song is so tough. I almost didn't release it. I almost didn't put the same, all those lyrics in verse 1.
Yeah.
There are multiple pieces of it that I almost changed before the song came out. And I had conversations with 3 different people, and I was just this is what really happened though. This is what really went down, and if I change it, then I'm lying.
Yeah.
So then I tried
How has that felt for you to still release it? And the amount that you've been able to connect with women because you were being real and talking about the hard stuff that a lot of people don't want to talk about.
I think now, knowing now what happened after I released it, I would never have a question ever again about it, and I would release it 100 times over again. The community of people that have come together, not only around me, but have told me that these songs have helped them through their breakups or their called off engagements or their divorces or whatever the situation might be. I realized how two-sided it is. Like, I am getting messages written in books like this telling me that it's going to be okay in my life. I'm getting DMs from people saying, I'm so happy my first engagement got called off because now I'm with the love of my life and everything is worth it. And I needed those messages, you know? I was just as lost as every human can be. And so I've definitely come to terms with feeling naked and have realized that, like, living the truth and being open about the truth while still being respectful and still, you know, not dragging any personal details through the mud, just being true about my experiences and what's happening is 100% the way to go.
Right. And, like, I'm literally tearing up just, like, hearing you say that. It's been so, like, inspiring to, like, get to see you go through it and navigate that. And, like, that's something that's just so true and so important for everyone to remember and realize that, like your story matters and, like, your voice deserves to be heard. And, like, the amount of people that you've been able to, like, save and impact and help by sharing your music has been really incredible to
My
witness.
skin's so hot now talking about this. I'm so embarrassed. Oh my gosh.
I love you.
I love you more.
Well, that's going to be really hard to follow up.
Yeah, what book are you reading, Emily? I know it's going to be something motivational, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I have it on my bookshelf right there. I listened to it on audiobook. I have, like, honestly, my books are kind of in piles everywhere right now because
you're kind of in packing mode. Like,
I'm in packing mode, and
to move in.
You know what? I don't have the book. I only got it on audio, so I'm a little confused because I have so many books that I've bought but not read. You know, I bought, like, hopefully, and then, like, literally never made time for, that I've recently been like, okay, I'm just gonna buy the audiobook version of it, and then I can listen to it, and then I won't feel bad for having it on my shelf and having never read it.
Right.
So, anyways, I don't actually have a copy of this one, but it was When Breath Becomes Air. And it is...
Oh, great title.
Such a beautiful book. I've heard the title several different times. Like, it's a very famous book. And it is about this neurosurgeon who, first of all, is such an inspiring human in general. He, like, basically at 18 was already so well versed in, like, literature and just the writing world in general that he was super passionate about, like, the meaning behind life. And that was his big question when he was, like, applying to college and going to school and everything. And it ended up being the reason why he didn't think he was going to be a doctor, but, like, I think his dad and his brother had both been doctors, and he was like, oh, I'll never do that like they did. But then it ended up being so perfect for his passion behind the meaning behind life because it was such a purposeful job.
Yeah.
You know, you're literally saving other people.
That's so true.
And it's a really, like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's a really, like, beautiful, like, heartbreaking story where, like, he, in the beginning of the book, talks about, you know, he helps people cope through and navigate this balance between life and death and, like, transitioning through getting diagnoses, and has to be that, like, caretaker so much as being a doctor. And he actually is in the middle of residency. He hasn't become a doctor quite yet when he gets diagnosed with cancer himself. And it is so heartbreaking, but I mean, so beautiful. He, like, the way that he writes this story, it's just so insightful, and just talking about, like, he went from, like, helping other people get through it to then having to go through it himself, and just being like, wow, like, it is so not the same thing.
Talk about perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to do our Q&A really quick? We can both do one question, and then we will sadly end our first episode, but we will be back next week.
Yes.
Just for this first episode, Julia put, like, a question box on her Instagram story. So she's currently scrolling through her questions on Instagram, and I have no idea what she's going to hit me with. So
yeah,
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, I am going to...
Also, no rush.
I love this question, actually, because you and I talk about this a lot, and I know that this is something you've been thinking about in this transition period of your life. But a question from I am Nick Franklin, and his question is, how is your mental health? Just sobs, shuts the computer. Like,
next question.
Yeah, exactly. No, but really, the things you and I have been texting about with Kristen over the last few days.
Yeah.
Talk about owning your story. I mean, this is real life you're going through right now.
I think that it is, my mental health is like very volatile right now. I woke up yesterday morning and I'm such a hardwired to be happy person that like my default is like smiling and being happy. Like it's just like what I go to when like I don't know what else to do. And like, you know, I've woken up the past couple mornings and I've just been like so sad. I just finished my college season and I did not make nationals, and I have the past couple of years. I didn't really get to train much this outdoor season because of my foot hurting, and I was second spot out of nationals, and it's been really hard for me to deal with. Also, more so not being at the Olympic trials in a few weeks because I've been at USA's, which is the equivalent on non-Olympic years, like the past couple of years. So that's been a big goal of mine. And it's a lot to process knowing that I'm not going to be there and like, you know, seeing it on social media and everything. And yeah, I just woke up yesterday morning and basically just like immediately started crying. And I was like, okay, we're not going to like, I was like, okay, I'm in this place right now where I can let myself go down, like downhill really fast and get really low. Especially not having running right now and not having that structure and not having like a job structure. But I was like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to eat. I literally don't want to talk to anyone. I don't even want to like call my sisters, which is like never the case.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to make my bed and I'm going to just go get some sunlight and go on a walk. And, I called my best friend E first. Julia and I are in different time zones, so it was a little early for me to call Julia, or else she would have been my first call. But I called my a best friend E, and she was so kind and helpful to me through it because she was just like, I'm so proud of you for getting out of bed and going and getting in the sunlight and going on this walk. And it completely changed my mindset and my attitude. I talked to E, and then I talked to my sister Kristen, and then I talked to Julia. And obviously you and I talked for like a long time. And you helped me so much, just kind of reframing, being like, how do you feel about everything? Like, do you feel like you're at a place where you can like be at peace knowing like this is the right decision to like end your season right here and not do another race right now? Like with your foot and everything, will that be something that you're at peace with, you know, for the next 10 years? And it doesn't matter like what anyone else thinks or how anyone else is viewing it.
And we're people pleasers, so we want everyone else to be happy. We want our coaches to be proud. We want our parents to be proud. We want, you know, all of our followers to follow along and be proud or whatever it is. And I was just, when I see you cry, it makes me cry. And I was like, the only thing that any of us really care about, and I need you to know this, is that you are happy. So the only thing that matters in these decisions is that you a year from now will look back and be like, no, that was the best thing for me in that moment. Because all of us, your parents, your coaches, like everyone wants you to be happy. That's like the most important thing. That's what we all care about. And we just love you.
Sorry. Sorry.
I also said, let it out. Cry.
You did.
You and I.
You did.
You've put up with me. What was it last week when I was just sobbing with you on FaceTime and I was like, I know it's because I start my period in a week and I don't care. I'm so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it really does feel good
to let
sometimes. It feels good to let it out.
But I'm really grateful for you, and literally your phone call helped me like just like rethink about it and reframe it so much. And I went and talked to my like sports psych afterwards, and Oh my God, I didn't tell you this, but I told her what you said. I was like, first of all, just you said like 5 different things that were just like all so helpful and so amazing. And she was hearing me say this, and she like cut me off. She was like, oh, just so you know, I sign off on all of this. Like, I am here with Julia. Like, yes.
Oh my gosh. In
so,
another
yeah.
life.
In another life. No, we were each other's therapists.
Yes,
but yeah, so
100%.
It's rough. You know, I think that there's pain with every joy, and there's so much beauty and so much pain and transition and in every step of life. And so this is a very like crazy period of my life, obviously, and it's been hard, but it's only been a few days, and I know like with time it'll get better, and I have you, so I know I'll be okay.
Well, I have you too. And I want everyone listening to this podcast to know that y'all have us. Like, we're here for you. We're all trying to figure out this crazy game of life. And at the end of the day, it's all about finding the harmony during the hustle and to keep going, you know, always keep going, stay true to who you are, but try to prioritize that happiness, because no one else is going to do it for you. That is the one thing I have learned. You know, no matter how many people you're trying to please and do right by, no one else is going to prioritize your mental health, your happiness. And as much as, you know, you want to be selfless, like, and you want to do things for other people, like, that is what's going to make, for me, that's what makes life feel purposeful, is like knowing that you're making an impact and you're helping. But at the same time, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to make sure
that's such a good quote.
You take care of yourself. Because no one else will do it for you. And they shouldn't have to, you know? And sometimes you do need someone to help pick you up. And I just remember, like, so our family, it's 5 of us, my mom, dad, Emily, Kristen, me. I remember I had the hardest tour. This is actually why I'm so scared of this tour. It is I can tell you the exact reason. I went on tour in Europe. I did, like, 13 cities in 7 different countries. And I opened acoustic for a different band that was full band. And they were all boys, and I was the only girl. And they all had whatever wives, girlfriends, fiancés who did not want some random girl on their bus. So they're all traveling together to every show. And I am by myself carrying all my gear, guitar, whatever, taking planes, taking trains, taking taxis to get myself to every venue. And it was the most physically taxing thing I've ever done. And I've run a marathon and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
I know, I was just saying.
This was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I was just so exhausted. And I also had this huge pressure on myself to try and see the sights. You're in this city for the first time. You've never been to this country. Like, you have to go see that thing. And this moment, I remember climbing the steps of the Cologne Cathedral. And our older sister lived in London. She joined me on this show, and my mom had actually come to help Kristen do wedding venue research or something like that. So she happened to be in Europe.
Kristen was living in London at this time?
Yes, Kristen was living in London. This is before COVID.
Yeah.
And Kristen and mom come to this show, and I think that, like, they hadn't been with me wherever I was before, so they, like, meet me there. We're in Germany, and it's like, we're going to go see this Cologne Cathedral together. And I'm carrying all this stuff, and we're going up. There's, you know, this is Europe built. I don't know how old this cathedral is, but like probably like the 1600s or something like that. And there's no elevator, there's no ramp. It's just like 150 stairs, cement stairs. And so I'm just carrying this stuff, and I just remember at one point just collapsing on the stairs and just sobbing. And mom and Kristen were both just like, woo, okay, bring in the troops. Like, how are we going to fix this situation? Like, what's wrong? How do we help? All of this. And
you finally had your people there. And,
you had, you don't know who the person is going to be necessarily in your corner when you need it the most, when you need someone to help pick you up off the floor. But as much as we can be that for each other, I know we always are, and hopefully we can be that for some other people too who are listening to this podcast. And I feel like maybe we should wrap up the podcast.
Well, you didn't answer a question.
Yeah, I'll pick a question really quick. Let's see. All right. Rachel J321 said, when are you releasing Diamondback? Diamondback is brilliant. I actually am going to drop it at midnight. That's
of this recording day, which means
of this recording day.
If you are listening to
True.
this, it's already out.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just want y'all to know that, first of all, I love when Julia lets me listen to her music before everybody else. Makes me so special. And when she played me this song, my jaw dropped. I mean, I need y'all to listen. I need you to take notes on these lyrics. I need you to be like you're studying an English paper on these lyrics, because she was a maestro putting this together. It's such a good song. I literally, like, my jaw dropped. I was like, you need to release this immediately. And I've been patiently waiting, so I'm very excited.
This is another one of those songs that I was like, this is a little too autobiographical and, again, very naked. The story in it is
But it's so
hard to
real.
tell. Yeah.
And that's why people, like, love it. And it's so good.
I hope they do. And I love you so much. And I cannot wait to do episode number 2 of Hustle and Harmony. Any other parting words, Emily?
You know what? I'm hoping that by the time this episode comes out, we will be aunts. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, me too. All right. I love you so much.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank y'all so much for listening to this episode of Hustle and Harmony.
Please leave us a 5-star review or comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on socials at Julia Cole Music and at Emily Cole.
We'll love you forever either way, and we can't wait to see y'all next week.
See y'all then.